To me, dance is community, and it is bringing together all of these artists from all of these industries and creating a dream and making it into a reality. I'm Ashley Jian Thomson, and I'm the guest choreographer for the School of Dance, as well as the producer for Elemental Alignment.
Not the bottom. Okay, cool.
I was invited to choreograph a piece for Utah Ballet by Dr. Melonie Murray, who is the director of the School of Dance here at the University of Utah. So I knew from then on that I would have to do a lot of preparation in advance in order to successfully gather and lead collaborators from all of the units from the College of Fine Arts. We're working to create this show that is not just dance. It's not just modern or ballet or combat. It's everything above. The first step to producing a dance piece like this is finding a source of inspiration. And luckily I had found that with the video game called Genshin Impact. In 2020, the pandemic was happening, and instead of focusing outward, I kind of went inward instead. And this game was just a real source of reflection for me. In listening to the music, I thought, you know what? We could probably bring this world alive on a live stage. Like, how cool would a live adaptation of a video game be involving dancers? And so I made sketches early on. So from the start, I knew we needed travelers. That's who you primarily play in the main game. And then I knew that we needed a Celestia. We needed someone who was more of like slightly antagonistic, someone who would be the foil to these travelers. And then throughout, I thought about different worlds and different lands that the travelers go through in the game and said, maybe we could create an environment that dancers could be plugged into these. And then through that came the idea of the elements.
Ashley asked me if I'd be interested in working on some visual elements of her choreography, which I was super excited about. And so we started off by kind of doing storyboards and talking about like how we could have like sort of like almost like a comic book or like a video game style storyline in the background through the spine of this whole performance. So I ended up using a lot of AI to help generate the backdrops, which was first for me, but also a really, really cool experience. It's absolutely insane to see what AI can generate.
And so casting was only about a couple of hours. And in that time frame, I had to choose my 9 dancers for all of these roles.
I think it's okay to slow it down, because otherwise we don't see what's happening. So could we go back from 6?
Coaching the dancers is like second nature. As a dance educator and a professional dancer myself, I always look for the personality of the dancer and try to bring that out through the choreography. This process is really special because we're creating a new work. And anytime you're creating a new work, especially from my personal experience, I love to involve the dancers' artistic opinions and their own creativity as we're working through this process. And I think this made for a more intimate experience. A really big part of this project was music. So inviting collaborators from the School of Music to help fill this piece with just beautiful harmony. The first thing I did was I asked Dr. Seth Keaton from School of Music, who's in charge of their vocal program, did he have any students who would be interested in being involved in this paid opportunity. And luckily, he found a couple for me. So we have Jordan Elterman, who is the soprano, the superstar, if you will, for us. She is the character of Celestia, who is this overarching goddess who is in charge of all of the elements. And she guides our traveler along their journey.
The process for me has been a little different than opera, for instance.
I liked your idea of showing her.
The fact that it's very modern is quite different from opera. Usually, in many operas, especially the older ones, you're supposed to emulate, like an 18th or 19th century female character, for me at least. And that requires you being sort of very, very prim and proper. And then with this project, I kind of just get to be very graceful and, I guess, chill, if you would. I've been allowed a lot more creative freedom, so I come into this really trying to emulate that sort of regal goddess character. And I want to bring a similar amount of grace as the dancers do while they're on stage. So it's been very new, but an incredibly wonderful creative experience.
This will be completely separate, and I'll do.
And then we also have Kai Bowen, who is a cellist and the composer for 2 of our arias. It was important to invite a composer to create original music that was based on existing music because we didn't want to totally copy the video game.
I had no idea what Genshin Impact was. I teach cello lessons down in Lehigh, and one of my students, it's like one of his favorite games, and he talked about Genshin Impact a whole bunch. It was kind of cool in that way in the beginning to not know anything but serendipitously learn from a student about this game, and especially going into it as well with the influences for composition like Philip Glass and the Barber Adagio. It was a little daunting. I've never worked on a project like this before, where there's not a lot of influence, there's not a lot of things to fly back on. And so in that way, it was kind of scary to be like, this is my interpretation of, or adaptation of the game soundtrack. Will this track? Thankfully it did. I'm just so incredibly thankful to be part of a project like this. I mean, it's sort of a dream for any artist to build something from the ground up like this, and to be part of an interdepartmental project with school, that's so cool.
Yeah. And so that's why I think before it might be kind of interesting to lead up to that.
Yeah, I agree.
When you're directing, you have to consider not only creating the choreography and teaching the dancers their steps and their story, but also what is the backdrop gonna look like? Are we gonna have animations in? Are we gonna have props on stage? How tall are they gonna be? And then looking at combat. So seeing with theater, for example, are the dancers going to feel safe or comfortable with the movements that we have? Because that, along with props, creates a whole nother problem-solving situation that we're constantly working with in rehearsals. I knew that I wanted the dancers in my piece to have combat and safety training. And to do this, I invited Chris Duval to come in for a day to work with my students on a workshop.
So I can be conscious of what's happening here, but if this is like crossing somebody's face behind me.
I love physical storytelling, and as an actor, as a director, as a fight director, I'm always very interested in the physical storytelling elements of any project I may be working on, whether it's text-based or not.
Eye contact perhaps by the target. Boom! Yes, good! Whoa! Very nice!
It is more akin to dancing than it is to combat. It's a partnership, it's about taking care of your partner, and it's about moving together as a unit rather than combat. Of course, it borrows from combative systems, but it is distinctly different in that way.
Step underneath it, and I'm going to extend it forward.
The opportunity to see this cross-collaborative effort is just really unique and beautiful and transformative and just frankly deeply inspiring. I think it's a real testament to what the University of Utah is doing in general in terms of building bridges across disciplines and This is just a really brilliant example.
Costumes are really integral to any dance piece because they help the choreography come alive in ways that movement can't. So to help this piece come alive, I asked Chris if he would be able to look at this vision with me and see if we could make things on paper a reality.
This performance, when do you perform?
Costuming helps tell the story in dance because it's a visual medium performance and it allows you to visually represent something you want on stage. So you design a costume that visually represents something and the audience will see that and they'll think something, they'll have a response. That's a big part of why I like the job is I like to figure out how to do it. How do you represent water? How do you represent fire? That's all stuff that I want to imagine and maybe do a little differently than what's been seen before. It's really great to see the costumes on stage and the lighting with everybody else and we're like, we did it, looks good, looks better than we thought. When all the elements come together is really rewarding.
I've put my trust in so many collaborators from across the College of Fine Arts academic units. And so a lot of this feels like while I am helping to direct, produce, or choreograph this work, elemental alignment, it is a community of artists that are working together. To be able to see this final production come alive on stage is so rewarding. On opening night, I always get a little bit nervous while I'm sitting in my seat, but as soon as the lights go down, the music turns on, all of that melts away, and we're just ready to watch the show.
There's not really much separation between the art and artist. That goes for any discipline, but when it comes to dance, that line is like completely off because you are presenting yourself as the artwork.
It's very important to know like who the character is and what is their motivation, how are they always feeling.
I think that something that people don't think about often is that when I say we're in rehearsal, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're just dancing the whole time.
You know, we try to be engaged, but we still feel like we can, you know, express our silly selves and just have fun throughout the process.
I think the first couple of weeks everybody is really quiet and nobody knows anybody, and then as you keep on dancing you're like, oh, this person is like that and they are into that. I know you're just getting to know people is very nice.
A lot of this piece was just trying new things for me. I hadn't done a lot of the lifts that we tried or the combat aspects of it.
I really do like how it combines so many different aspects of art and like storytelling into one, and I've never been in a piece that does that before.
There's a lot of props and different lighting, and like the characters I feel like are very you're able to like pick them out, which is different from other dances that I've been in.
Dances with storylines are just so fun to watch, so yeah, I think it'll be like a really cool experience for everyone to see.